The day began like any other in the banking hall. Customers queued, tellers processed transactions, and security guards maintained order. But within minutes, panic erupted. Customers stared at their phones in disbelief. Accounts that had been full the night before now showed zero balances. Fear turned into rage as voices rose, fists banged against counters, and employees scrambled for answers. "Where is my money?" one man bellowed, his face contorted with panic. The bank was on the verge of a riot, and no one had an explanation. Inside the manager's office, employees whispered frantically, dreading the fallout. It wasn't just a system glitch. Millions had vanished. The bank's reputation was at stake, and unless someone figured out what was happening, the entire institution could collapse. On the top floor, Managing Director Chijioke sat behind his expansive mahogany desk, his fingers trembling as he refreshed the financial system on his computer. The numbers didn't make sense. He picked up his phone and dialed the only person who could make sense of this mess: Obiora, a forensic auditor with a reputation for solving impossible financial crimes. "I need you here now. This is beyond what we can handle," he said, his voice barely steady. Obiora arrived at the bank headquarters with his usual calm demeanor, taking in the distressed employees and the whispers of fraud. He had seen corruption before, but something about this case felt different, deeper, darker. As he entered Chijioke's office, the MD wiped sweat from his brow. "Tell me everything," Obiora said, already sensing something far bigger than a simple cyber heist. Obiora worked through the night, poring over transaction logs, trying to make sense of the financial black hole. There was no trace of withdrawals or transfers, only missing money, as if it had been plucked out of existence. He had expected to find a paper trail, but instead, he found silence. The deeper he dug, the more confused he became. It wasn't just that money had been stolen, it had been erased. Even digital footprints that should have remained were gone. Someone had executed the perfect crime, and if Obiora didn't figure out how, the bank was doomed. A breakthrough came when Obiora traced anomalies in the system, ghost accounts receiving large deposits that disappeared within minutes. The accounts had no real owners, no verification records, and no withdrawal transactions. It was as if money entered a void. Someone was using the bank as their personal laundering machine, cycling funds through a complex network designed to evade detection. But who, and how had they managed to cover their tracks so well? Obiora began questioning employees, but their responses were anything but consistent. Some appeared genuinely clueless, others too nervous, and a few were almost too confident. He knew he was being lied to, but the question was, by whom? One particular teller, when pressed, nearly broke into tears. "I don't know anything," she whispered, but her darting eyes told another story. Obiora noted her name. There were too many loose ends, and he intended to pull every single one until the truth unraveled. Obiora returned home late that night, his mind racing with theories. As he dropped onto his couch, his phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. "Stop looking. It's bigger than you think." He sat up, adrenaline surging. Someone was watching him. Someone knew he was getting close. But if they thought this would scare him off, they had made a mistake. The next morning, Obiora received an unexpected visitor, a high-ranking finance officer, elegant in a tailored suit and expensive perfume. She smiled warmly, but her words were cold. "We appreciate your diligence, Mr. Obiora, but perhaps it's time you took a break. A weekend getaway? A generous consultation fee? You work hard. You deserve a reward." He leaned back, studying her. "And if I say no?" Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes flickered. "Then I hope you're prepared for what comes next." That night, Obiora awoke to whispers, low, eerie murmurs that seemed to come from his walls. He switched on the lights, scanning the room. His heart pounded as he saw what was scrawled on his mirror. "Leave now, before it's too late." The windows were locked. The door was bolted. No one had entered his apartment, yet the message was there. Fear gnawed at him. Was someone toying with him, or was this something beyond the physical realm? Obiora barely slept that night. The ominous warning on his mirror haunted him. He checked his doors and windows again, ensuring every lock was secure. But the feeling of being watched didn't fade. His instincts screamed at him. He was in danger. The next day, he decided to change his routine. He took a different route to the bank, scanning his surroundings carefully. As he neared his car, a black van screeched to a halt beside him. Two masked men jumped out, their movements swift and coordinated. Obiora reacted instantly, dodging their grasp and throwing a punch at one of them. But they were stronger, faster. Just as they were about to force him into the van, a security guard from the bank appeared, shouting. The men hesitated for a split second, enough for Obiora to break free and run. The van sped away, disappearing into the morning traffic. Obiora leaned against a wall, catching his breath. This wasn't just about financial fraud anymore. Whoever was behind this wasn't just stealing money. They were willing to kill to keep their secrets buried. Obiora knew he couldn't fight this battle alone. That evening, he drove to the outskirts of the city to meet an old friend, Dr. Uchenna, a cybercrime specialist. Uchenna had once worked for law enforcement, tracking digital fraud syndicates, but had left after threats were made against his family. Inside Uchenna's dimly lit apartment, the scent of strong coffee filled the air as multiple monitors displayed lines of code and security footage from various city networks. "I had a feeling you'd come to me," Uchenna said, scrolling through his database. "I've been following the money trail. This isn't just bank fraud, Obiora. It's a full-scale financial conspiracy." Obiora leaned in. "How deep does this go?" Uchenna exhaled, turning the screen towards him. "Deeper than you think. The ghost accounts aren't just used for siphoning money. They're part of a larger laundering network linked to offshore accounts, shell companies, and political figures. Whoever is running this operation has influence in high places." Obiora clenched his fists. He had suspected corruption, but this was far worse. The deeper he dug, the more he realized he was up against something far bigger than Chijioke. Determined to expose the masterminds, Obiora and Uchenna began tracking real-time transactions. They set up digital traps, monitoring account movements. Within hours, they caught something unusual, an untraceable transaction occurring in real time. The source? A private terminal within the bank itself. Someone inside was still moving the stolen money, and they were doing it right under Chijioke's nose. Obiora knew he had to act fast. But how do you catch a thief who vanishes into thin air? Determined to expose the masterminds, Obiora and Uchenna began tracking real-time transactions. They set up digital traps, monitoring account movements. Within hours, they caught something unusual, an untraceable transaction occurring in real time. The source? A private terminal within the bank itself. Someone inside was still moving the stolen money, and they were doing it right under Chijioke's nose. But how do you catch a thief who vanishes into thin air? Late one night, Obiora found a secret ledger hidden in an encrypted file. The mastermind behind the fraud wasn't just an employee, it was someone in top management. The managing director, Chijioke himself. Obiora's eyes narrowed. He had the proof he needed. Obiora confronted Chijioke, the ledger spread on the table. "You're finished. I know everything," he said, his voice firm. Chijioke smiled, then leaned in. "Do you now? You'll never take me down." He continued, "I hired you to investigate this company. But now, your services are no longer needed. You're fired." Two security guards entered and escorted him out of the bank's premises. Obiora knew what he had to do next. Quitting was not an option. Not after all he has seen. Someone has to fight for the helpless bank customers whose deposits had been brazenly stolen by Chijioke and his accomplices. Obiora reached out to Ifeoma, a fearless journalist known for exposing corruption. "I need your help," he said on the phone, his voice urgent. "We can bring them down together." Ifeoma agreed to help, her voice steady. "I'm in." Together, they devised a plan. Ifeoma leaked a fake report, hinting at the evidence Obiora had uncovered. The syndicate took the bait, making their move. Law enforcement, tipped off by Obiora, closed in. The bank's board took notice. Pressure mounted. Chijioke, desperate, tried to flee the country. But Obiora and law enforcement were waiting at the airport. He was arrested, but the damage had already been done. The managing director's arrest sparked chaos. The bank's board scrambled to contain the damage. Customers panicked, demanding answers. Obiora watched, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. Justice was within reach. The bank's collapse sent shockwaves through the financial sector. Employees lost jobs, customers lost savings. Obiora's exposé sparked widespread outrage. The government launched an investigation, promising reforms. As Obiora reflected on his victory, a chilling message arrived. "You won this battle, but the war continues. We are everywhere." The syndicate's reach was far greater than he had imagined. Obiora dug deeper, tracing the syndicate's tentacles. He uncovered a web of influential individuals, politicians, business leaders, and foreign investors who controlled multiple financial institutions. The true extent of the corruption dawned on him. Chijioke was just a pawn. The real war was only beginning. A shadowy figure watched Obiora from afar. "He must be silenced," the man whispered. The game was far from over. Obiora realized that taking down the managing director was just the beginning. He had stirred the hornet's nest, this powerful network, politicians, business tycoons, and foreign investors who controlled multiple financial institutions. These weren't just criminals, they were the ones who dictated economic policies behind the scenes. He had disturbed a powerful network, one that would stop at nothing to maintain its grip on the financial sector. A cryptic message arrived at his doorstep. "Step back, or you will be removed." It wasn't just a warning, it was a declaration of war. Obiora knew he was being watched. He started changing routes, avoiding predictable patterns. But one evening, as he drove home, his instincts screamed warning as he noticed a black SUV tailing him. The car sped up, forcing him off the main road. Gunshots shattered his windshield, and he ducked, accelerating through the streets. He lost the attackers, but the message was clear. They would kill to silence him. Determined to strike back, Obiora sought help from Ifeoma and Dr. Uchenna. Together, they hatched a plan to expose the syndicate's leaders, but they needed more evidence and more allies. He reached out to a retired anti-corruption investigator, Mr. Raju, who once tried to expose the same financial syndicate while in office before being silenced. "You have no idea what you're up against," Raju said. "This is bigger than just one bank. They're everywhere. This is a system designed to fail ordinary people while making the elite richer. If you want to take them down, you need undeniable proof, something even the government can't ignore. I will work with you to bring these people down for good." Obiora's team uncovered damning evidence: documents, recordings, witness testimony, offshore accounts, shell companies, and bribery trails leading to top government officials. If released, this would shake the entire financial sector. They prepared to go public, but the syndicate made a desperate move. Ifeoma was kidnapped, and a ransom message was sent. "Hand over the evidence, or she dies." Obiora had a choice: sacrifice his work or risk his friend's life. Obiora set a trap, using the evidence as bait. The syndicate took the bait. As they moved to retrieve it, law enforcement, secretly tipped off, closed in. A massive crackdown ensued, leading to multiple arrests. Ifeoma was rescued, shaken but alive. With the arrests and revelations rocking the financial sector, but the public outrage forced a government investigation into the financial sector. Obiora had sparked a revolution, but at what cost? The web of fraud was finally exposed, but the consequences would be far-reaching. As he stood on his apartment balcony one evening, his phone buzzed with a new message. "You won this battle, but the war continues. We are everywhere." Obiora exhaled. The web of fraud was far from untangling, but he wasn't done yet.
If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to our channel for more African folktales and legends. Help us keep the traditions of our ancestors alive by sharing our content with your friends and family. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.